Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Jim Jonas with Steve Sanson with another episode of Veterans in Politics. We have a very exciting show for you. This show has a lot of importance to it, and really want to appreciate and thank our guest for coming on. Her name is Yvonne Randall, and she's going to discuss the corruption of Judge Douglas Herndon. Okay, so there's been a lot made in the news recently about Judge Douglas Herndon. He's running for Nevada Supreme Court. And then we have Ozzie Fumo, who is also running for the same seat. I've gotten a lot of backlash personally because I personally have endorsed Ozzie Fumo. And I consistently get asked, how can you call yourself a Republican and endorse him to be a Nevada Supreme Court judge? Well, first off, last time I checked, this was judges should be nonpartisan. Now, I do understand that for whatever reason, Supreme Court seats have become very partisan over the years. But here's the thing about Judge Herndon. I don't care if supposedly he's more conservative than Ozzie Fumo, and we'll bring up other issues in this interview. But Douglas Herndon sentenced a man to prison for 21 years. Found out that he did not commit the crime and was unwilling to apologize for his activities in this case. And so for me personally, I don't care if you're liberal or if you're conservative. What really matters to me is that you have a conscience and you do the right thing. Justice is supposed to be blind for everybody. And it's obviously not that way with Judge Herndon. So I just want to
piggyback on that as well, because
and I do apologize. Like, I'm getting kind of off script because this is very personal to me. Like, I'm really, to be perfectly honest with you, I'm pissed that anybody would accuse me of not being a conservative or not being a Republican because I back somebody who I feel has a better moral character. I know people that work for Ozzie Fumo, okay? I understand his record. I don't care if you think he's a little too liberal or not. It really frustrates me on a personal level when I get attacked personally because, well, aren't you supposed to be a Republican? What the hell does that have to do with anything?
Well, Douglas Herndon is trying to get the Republican vote.
Right.
But Douglas Herndon has never showed up at any Republican Central Committee meeting.
I never seen him.
Nor have we seen Douglas Herndon show up at any Nevada State Republican meetings. So Douglas Herndon is in a political party all by himself, which is called an opportunist.
Right.
Opportunist party. And to piggyback some more, not only did he prosecute Fred Stees and had him be in prison for 21 plus years before he was free on DNA evidence, is that Douglas Herndon knew Fred Stees were innocent long before he was convicted for 21 years. How does somebody sleep with themselves, live with themselves, knowing that they send a man to prison for 21 plus years for a crime he didn't commit? Matter of fact, Fred Stees was 865 miles away when the crime took place, the murder took place. And not only that, Douglas Herndon is trying to be a Supreme Court justice, but he was sanctioned twice by the Supreme Court. One for abusing his discretion, and I don't even know why judges even have discretion to begin with. And the second for violating a litigant's or a juror's constitutional right. So how could you violate somebody's constitutional right when you want to be a Supreme Court justice? So those are some of the stuff that we have learned by investigating Judge Herndon. But we have a guest here, Yvonne Randall, and how you doing, Miss Randall?
Great.
Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I moved here from Michigan in 1986, and I was the administrator and project manager to Bob Shulman, Robert V. Jones, and Olin Olenikoff, and Johnny Ribeiro. So I've been building Las Vegas since 1986, and it was a great time then because it was all the old Vegas, and everybody was helping each other, and it was a wonderful time. And in that time period, I met Don. He at one point lived next to Benny Binion, and they rode horses together. Don knew people all over town because he was also Howard Hughes' chief accountant. And so he was highly respected. And tell
us a little bit about your husband.
Oh, everybody that met him loved him. He was a real stand-up guy. He didn't take crap from anyone. If he was right about something, he was very anal. He would step up and he would, just for whatever, for what he felt was right. He had unbelievable stories about Howard Hughes. People loved to talk to him, and he shared those stories. And when I met Don later in life, when we rekindled the friendship, he was living on the Las Vegas National Golf Course on the 11th tee, and it was like built up 6 feet higher than the rest of the golf course. So he loved sitting out there talking to people on the golf course and watching the birds. And he had 2 sons that passed when they were in their 20s.
Oh, wow.
And that was really emotionally hard for him. Yeah. And one of the sons, Scott, they died in Amarillo, Texas. Mm-hmm. And the first one, it was an overdose. And the second one, the woman that married him said he multiply stabbed himself in the stomach. Oh. And she said it was suicide. And in case she had a baby, and she said it was Scotty's. So she wouldn't allow a DNA test. And nobody knew about DNA, but not until 2009, she surfaced, and she had Don going to 3 different doctors, overdosing him, and child or senior protection, and so the police and so many people were involved in the whole thing. And so Don's house burned in 2009. It was an arson, and he called me and asked me if I would come and help him. And I was living with Dusty Buckle, Stewart Road from Oath Keeper. His mother, she was dying with cancer. So I kind of split my time. But
that name sounds familiar to me.
Stuart Rhodes.
Yeah.
He's
with Oath Keepers?
He's the president of Oath Keeper.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've met him.
His mother I was taking care of. She passed with cancer. And so anyway, Don had nowhere to live. So when Dusty, passed away, I had my granddaughter. We moved into Southern Highlands so she'd go to school. And Don asked if he could move in with us. So we shuffled things around and gave him the master suite. And my granddaughter...
Is that the one with its own bathroom?
Yep.
Ugh.
He was the king. And he would be up and down all night. And so my granddaughter really enjoyed it because she was like 14, 15. And he kind of like was a grandfather to her. And so he would teach her, talk to her about, having dignity and, just life skills. And so it was his sister, Sue, in her 80s in Oklahoma, where Don was born and raised. Her daughter called and said, did you give Stacy, the alleged granddaughter, did you give Stacy your home? And he was like, hell no. And that's what got the party started. He made me take him down to the city to get the recording and find out what was going on. Is when he found out that she actually recorded a fake document. And at the time period that she recorded it, she had taken him to some therapist that wrote that he was incompetent for 6 months. That's when she had him sign it, and it was recorded. It wasn't even valid.
But aren't you married to him?
Then finally, when we were going in 2010, he said, we were in Dorothy Kyle. She's a probate attorney. And we were in her office. And Don just came out and he asked me to marry him. And I fell out of the chair. I was like, what are you talking about? And Dorothy said, that sounds like a proposal. And so for months he was asking me, please, just a piece of paper. But I think really in my mind, he didn't want to be alone. He was afraid of his granddaughter, and he had gone through a couple of years of being overdosed, and, he was scared. And we had been friends for so many years, and he trusted me. And, I wanted to be a nurse. I mean, love taking care of people. And so I'd cook for him and do all those things. And so finally I said to him, okay, my mother and father got married October 9th, 1946. And they were married over 60 years. That's got to be a lucky day. Mm-hmm. So he said, well, that's the day. Mm-hmm. And it was like the end of September. So he watched and October 9th, he said, okay, this is the day. So we went downtown and invited a few friends to go with us. And I was like, oh, what am I doing?
So Don served in the military, right?
He was a World War II vet when he was 16.
Wow.
He changed his birth certificate because all of his buddies in Altus, Oklahoma were going to the war. And he said he wanted to go fight for our country with his buddies. He changed his birth certificate and he went. And the first ship he was on was blowing up. He had neck and back injuries. It looks like a spaghetti bowl.
Wow.
And he went to rehab. And he got back on the USS Terry and was a radio man. And when Don left the Navy, he didn't even ask for his pension. He said, you know what, I was making good money working for Howard, and I didn't want to take anything from my fellow people in the service. Mm-hmm. He didn't understand, didn't take anything from them. It comes from the government. Mm-hmm. But anyway, he was good with it. He never, ever collected a pension.
Wow.
And so he had, oh my gosh, sometimes he'd wake me up.
When did he pass?
April 7th, 2014. It was just after, in the middle of this court thing where
So he passed in the middle of the court transaction?
Well, there is a bill that if you're a senior, that they push your case.
Right.
I can't remember what the bill is. All of my documents are in a storage unit. On that, all of them. Some of them were hijacked when they evicted me.
Wow.
But these documents are what I have left. But I was trying to tell the attorneys that you can get this case moved up.
Well, why don't you walk us through from apparently was your husband's case in front of Judge Herndon, right?
Yes.
So once you walk us through that whole process.
Well, there was like 5 attorneys. It became a circus because Herndon didn't single-handedly do this delay and strip us of retirement. She hired Kerry Cole Payne. He has the backdoor elbow rubbing, whispering, manipulation. It became a circus that when we hired an attorney, they were all gung-ho, gave us letters that this is a slam dunk, very easy case. Why didn't that attorney finish
Be
it?
wary when they say it's a slam dunk.
Well, believe me, I learned a lot at camp. And
What kind of camp? Boot camp?
the legal corruption, the legal corruption
Camp.
got so bad that my husband finally he said, "Babe, there is something going on behind the closed doors. I was here with the good old boys, and this is somebody's paying somebody." And he finally he just said, "You know what? Let's not even go to court. Let's go probe her and tell the judge exactly what happened.
So he would represent himself without counsel.
Exactly.
Okay.
To tell him what happened."
What was the reason to be in district court with Herndon?
Because the granddaughter had stole he was a stock day trader, and she asked him to buy a computer and teach her how to trade stock. And that got the party started. She stripped him of his whole stock account.
Wow. How much was that?
$500,000.
And where were you when this was going on?
That's why I'm saying Don asked me to marry him because he was scared of her. He had to hire, that happened the year before we got married. He hired an attorney to get his stock back. And she gave him half of it. She said, she always came up with this excuse. Well, Granddad told me I could have this, and then he gives me things, and then he gets mad at me and he wants them back. That was her favorite line. Don, when he talked about her, he called her the ugly creature.
Oh, wow.
He put up an 8-foot iron fence around his house.
That's his own granddaughter he's talking about.
Well, she says, but she wouldn't give a DNA test.
Oh.
So
he doesn't know for sure if that was
exactly. She would appear when she needed money. And sometimes she even got her friends to go knock on the gate, get Don, come in, I'll help you with your yard. And then they would figure out, pick his brain, what he's thinking, what he's doing to tell her. She got him to loan $100,000 to a guy, I don't recall his name, to buy a house on Yuma. Don gave him the money, and he had a lien and all kinds of documents to get that back. But
where did Don get his money from?
He was day trading in the stock market.
Wow, day traded.
He was
we should start doing that, Jim.
he had the old ledger book. My mother was an accountant. The old ledger book where they write in everything. He didn't even know how to turn a computer on. When I was on the computer, he'd go, "Babe, what are you doing over there? Come sit by me." I said, "Don, I'm researching so we can get the information we need." And so anyway, she got him to buy her a computer, and she figured out what he was doing, and she got into his account. But there was a secret behind Stacy.
Stacy, who's this? The granddaughter?
Stacy Dawn Randall. She Don didn't introduce her to any of his female friends. There was a reason for that. So she said, "Well, you didn't know my granddad all those years." Well, you know what? There's many women that never met you either. But any case, Don, he had such anger that when we went into Herndon's court, it's just two seniors with a story in the documents. We had a certified report on the documents that she provided. We had people, witnesses to everything that we were saying and doing. And when we went in there, and Don told me he was so angry that he couldn't talk. All he wanted to do, to be real honest, she stole his pistols.
Oh, wow.
So
you don't touch a man's gun.
No, when we went to Metro, Alan, his last name escapes me. He is an investigator in Metro. He showed us her picture and Don's guns. One Howard Hughes gave him, and she got concealed applications approved for those pistols. Mm-hmm. And Don just about blew a gasket. He said, "If I had that pistol, I would shoot her." That's all he thought about, was going to the bus station, because I wouldn't take him to find her. So I couldn't sleep, because if he got outside, he was going to the bus station. But when we went to Judge Herndon's court, as two respectful seniors with the truth, Kerry Colt Payne, out of the 10 complaints that we had that should have been heard in district court, he pulled the house out of that, our what do you call the complaint that we filed in court. He pulled the house out.
What was the complaint about?
Stealing the stock. She stole his truck, the pistols.
Oh, wow.
There was a plethora of things.
So wait a minute. So your husband is saying that his granddaughter stole from him?
She literally stripped him of all of his assets.
Did he file a police report?
Yes.
Okay.
There were police reports that were filed, and the neighbor, Judy and Jack Davenport, and there other people that lived on the golf course, mm-hmm. They were all behind Don.
So whatever happened with that police report?
There's probably 10 of them. I have to. I don't know where they're at now, but I can go to Metro.
Did she get arrested and prosecuted for theft? The granddaughter.
You know what? On a couple of them, they did arrest her. Ah. Now Don is like 5'6", weighs 150 pounds.
Right.
Stacy is about 6'5" and weighs 350 pounds.
She towers over.
Oh God, yeah.
That's clearly not his granddaughter.
Well, if you see the family picture, because the girl that was married to Don's son married the best friend that was in the group. The two boys had a best friend, David Richardson. As soon as Don's son, she said it was suicide, and he stabbed himself in the stomach. Any forensic doctor will tell you that is like so bizarre.
How many times did he do it?
Like 6 or 7 times.
Oh, there's
in his
no
stomach.
Way. The first one will put you down to the ground.
Yeah. So the suicide story, within a month, Don bought the house that they were living in. Within a month, she ran off and married David Richardson, the best friend of the two boys.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then when all this happened, they moved to Wyoming for 3 years and then moved back into Don's house. It was all transferred when Stacy, she had a power of attorney over Don. He was signing paperwork because he was overdosed. He didn't know what he was signing. And so all of that could have been easily reversed.
So let's move fast forward, Ms. Randall. Could you tell the viewers and listeners exactly what Judge Herndon did?
When we went into Judge Herndon, is this a camera over here? When we went into Judge Herndon's courtroom, my husband, Donald R. Randall, a World War II vet, 83 years old, and we respectfully asked him, because Carrie Colt Payne pulled the house to transfer it to the granddaughter out of the whole case, not hearing the rest of it, of what we were asking. So the granddaughter, Stacy, never showed up one time in 3.5 years in that Judge Herndon's courtroom. So Judge Herndon, we very respectfully spoke to him and asked him that we submitted all the paperwork to prove and reveal the truth. He said, we're only going to talk about transferring the house today, and I'm approving that. And I was in shock. My husband, I was praying he didn't say anything, because it would have been not good. So I said, we asked Judge Herndon, please, could you set it aside so we could hire legal counsel to represent us? He said, no, I'm transferring your house today. I don't know what else to tell you. There was nothing else to say. We thanked him for his time and left. My husband, from that day, cried, paced the floor night and day until the day he died. That was April 7th, 2014. All he wanted to do was get his house back and his assets that were ripped and stolen from him, from Douglas Herndon. If you vote for this man, you are slapping every veteran in the face, every World War II veteran that fought for your freedom. I'm voting for Ozzy because he's a man of justice for all, not for some. So, my husband didn't get justice in 2014, and I have never gotten over it. My heart breaks for him. And his justice will be if Ozzy Fumo is the Supreme Court. That's the highest court in Nevada. So if you go there, you want to have to figure out if you got to pay an attorney to rub elbows to get the fair trial. Believe me, I still let friends and family and everyone that went to that courtroom and listened to what was going on there are still in shock. They couldn't even believe it. I have videos of my husband pacing and crying and begging, please give me my house back. If anybody wants to see those videos, no problem. You contact Steve and they will get a hold of me. And I'm making a CD. I'll pass it on. It is not something that anybody should have to live through or suffer through. So I'm standing up. Here's a picture of Fred that suffered 21 years because Douglas Herndon lied in court. So the Review Journal at this point now is backing a story of the red flag law, saying that Ozzy is the one that created it and got it passed in the Senate. That's crazy. That's scandal. And that's another Doug Herndon playbook, a lie. It was all endorsed because the Review Journal is backed by the good old boys, Sheldon Adelson, Oscar Goodman. So who's going to fight them? Well, I am, because the backstory is not true. The real story is if you Google red flag law, it will come up and it will tell you that Ozzy Fumo wrote a law, he created it, it was passed. It was merely to make sure that guns were kept in a safe place away from children, away from mentally ill. It was to protect all the people in Nevada, not just some. But what happened was they hijacked some of the verbiage. The Democratic Party hijacked some of his verbiage, and they recreated another bill, the red flag law. It had nothing to do with Ozzy Fumo. He had nothing, he didn't write that red flag law, he didn't endorse it, he had nothing to do with it. So if you hear the scandal or somebody says that he backed it, well, then Google red flag law and see the truth. Or go on any of the I've been posting with everybody that will listen to me far and wide in Nevada, all the different people, and some that are saying that they're backing Herndon, and I email them the truth about the red flag and the truth about how Judge Herndon is professional at ruling on justice for some and not for all. That's not a Supreme Court judge. A Supreme Court judge is nonpartisan. It is ruled on justice for all via the laws in Nevada and the Constitution. And Ozzy is also a professor at UNLV that teaches the law. So who better than him to know exactly what the Supreme Court judges should be ruling on? But the Nevada Liberty and Reno Tea Party coalition, I've been fighting with them. Anyway, I put the correct verbiage regarding the red flag law. So if you want to go on there and check it out, or I'll email it to you. But in any case, from 2010 to 2014, being stuck in Judge Herndon's court, it didn't even end there. My husband passed away, so I had to go back to court in Judge Herndon because I was living in the house and they wanted me out. And so my attorney asked if I could stay until we went to Supreme Court and let them hear our case. And I would pay rent. So what happened was Judge Herndon, we suggested about $800 in rent. Here I'm paying rent on a house that we owned and fighting for. And so Judge Herndon is sitting there and he looks at Carrie Cole Payne and he looks up at this guy and he goes, well, I think Miss Randall should pay somewhere between $1,000 and $1,500. And Mr. Payne looks at the Judge Herndon and goes, well, we'll cut it in the middle, $1,250. And that's what I paid rent for a year until November 2015. I got a knock on the door at 8 o'clock in the morning. It was a constable evicting me, and there was no eviction order, period. And Don had a German Shepherd, and so I was holding the dog back, and the constable is screaming at me, get out, get out, get out. I'm going to shoot your dog. So I grabbed the dog, and I had to get out. I was in my pajamas, and I grabbed my purse, because I had my car keys. And I went down to, Don had 2 cats. He loved animals. And they told me the cats went outside, which was a lie. The cats were locked in the house. So I went to this justice court and asked to speak to Judge Cruz. She was new on the bench. They kicked Janice Marshall, a beautiful judge, off the bench because of elbow rubbing. They got Judge Cruz on the bench. So I had to go to her courtroom and ask if, because there was, the people at Justice Court were all like, holy, we don't see even an order for your eviction. There's no eviction. Why is the constable there? But Judge Cruz, she did not want to hear from me. She put me on calendar and to come back a week later. So I got back in my car and I went to Valley Hospital where they admitted me for 4 days. for stress and heart. And Carrie Colt Payne is calling me, telling me, come get your cats. And I was like, how much more? How much more? So when I went to court with with Judge Cruz, she was there. She said I didn't pay my rent, and which was a lie. I did pay the rent. Carrie Colt Payne is the one that lied, said he didn't get the rent, which he did. And because I had the cashier checks that the bank would have verified. And what she told me was, I went to Judge Herndon's courtroom and he said, you're a suspect. You can't go back in the house. So here I was. I couldn't go back in the house. But they handed the keys over to the same girl that was stripping us financially of our retirement in our house. They handed her the keys. So she went in the house and dug around and stripped me of more documents. I can't believe me. Think about if this was you. I couldn't believe what was going on. Finally, she called and said, well, if you want to come and get your stuff. So my friends and family got together and they went over there, but they were on Stacy's schedule because she was going to some of the shows on the strip and didn't want to be interrupted. So they could come 2 hours today, 4 hours tomorrow. It took 5 days to collect all the things that were left in the house. And they put them in a 10 by 30 storage. To be real honest, I really haven't emotionally been able to even go in there because all the things that Don and I had together, what was left, what they gave us is in that storage. So between Judge Herndon's ruling and Judge Cruz's ruling and Carrie Colt Payne's brilliant backdoor elbow rubbing, they completely stripped a World War II vet, 2 seniors, and what did my husband get? Death. So vote for Ozzie Fumo. If you want justice for all, please give Don Randall justice. He was a World War II vet, and he would be smiling upon everyone to make this happen. Thank you for listening to my story and all these kind people that have allowed me to tell it. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I just wanted to recap, and I'm sorry for your loss, Miss Randall.
You know what? Judge Herndon, when I went in there and he was trying to figure out what rent I needed to pay to stay in that house, he never one time said, Miss Randall, I am sincerely sorry for the loss of your husband. He didn't say anything. He bolted right into, well, I think that she should be paying between $1,000 and $1,500. That's what he started out with. I believe me, if you the recap of the case, you know, everything that was said, I don't know what you call that, but believe me, it's there. The minutes. It's not something I made up. Right. I'm sorry. I've had to take some medication to keep from peeling me off the ceiling. Yeah. Every day is a struggle, but you know what? He's at the Veterans Cemetery in Boulder City, and they honored him there.
Well, Mark, could you get Miss Randall a tissue or?
I brought some Kleenex, baby. I came prepared. I know how I am.
I'm sorry that I'm sure this is very emotional for you, Miss Randall.
I hope I don't get
losing your husband and having his assets stripped away by a judge that that, in my opinion, shouldn't be on the bench because of what he did to Fred Steeds. I really appreciate you coming in here and letting the voters know what type of person this guy is that's on the ballot. So what's
Doug Herndon, the Judge Herndon, is lucky that my husband isn't here today, because believe me, you think I got out there and he would be, this room would be rattling. He saved all of that anger when we would, at night, every day. He was on my hip every day. He had a walker, and I did all of the lifting, carrying, and taking care of him. And but believe me, he was very vocal. And what he was saying when we left that court, if you go to Judge Herndon's courtroom and you listen to some of the attorneys go down on the elevator with them, you'll hear all the backstories. He's not, his rulings in his courtroom, it wasn't just for my husband in Fred. There was other people that don't even have a voice.
Well, I was told that he's a huge narcissist. He's not very humble or compassionate.
Oh, no, he's not. They have a judge's night out or something every year. They celebrate the judges. And he never attends those. He's a very secretive man. He likes to, he has been Oscar Goodman's attorney at the school, the private school they have, the Meadows. Mm-hmm. So Oscar Goodman is a beautiful man. I mean, I can't even tell you how much appreciate that.
You would think somebody that's supposed to be a starch, stern Republican would not represent a once Democrat.
Well,
as a person as Oscar Goodman.
Look at Sheldon Adelson. Yeah. He's a Republican.
Mm-hmm. Who's selling his casinos right now because he lost $566 million in the third quarter. Man, if I lost $566 million and I'm a billionaire, that's probably nothing.
No, and believe me, I don't have anything against them. They are beautiful people in this community. His wife is a doctor. She is running a drug rehab to help people. Right. They're pillars of the community. Mm-hmm. But you know what? The thing is maybe they don't even know the rulings that Doug Herndon. If they knew the rulings that he was putting forth, then they wouldn't be endorsing somebody. You give this kind of power to a judge in Supreme Court, he's untouchable. It's a 6-year term. How many people that suffered in district court going to Supreme Court? It's a crapshoot.
So my understanding, Ms. Randall, is that Judge Herndon stripped your husband from his house.
Oh, yeah.
And gave it to the
granddaughter.
How much did that house worth?
Well, in 2009, I told you there was an arson fire. My husband was in the shower. And it was a tri-level. So he was in the shower. He was living in the basement because in the summer it was cooler, whatever. And when he opened the bathroom door, there was black smoke. He said he couldn't see anything. He got on his hands and knees and he crawled out to the back door and got outside. And so from that fire, the insurance company they paid $225,000.
Was the house paid off?
Yes. Oh gosh, it was paid off when he got it.
But earlier you mentioned that he wanted to come live with you.
That because his house was burned. It was when his house burned. He couldn't live in the house.
So how did the granddaughter end up getting it?
getting the house.
Yeah.
She had a quitclaim deed
Gotcha.
that she may have said to him, "Granddad, I'm going to the grocery store. I need you to sign this." And when the VA doctor has many documentations where he was taking too many drugs.
Did he see anybody for his competency or nothing like that?
I had him evaluated at the VA after she took him to some clinic, and the doctor there evaluated him that he was incompetent for 6 months. How do you evaluate somebody and say you're incompetent for 6 months? But after she got that report, she had him sign the quitclaim deed, and thinking, then the arson fire, if he had died in the fire, who would have been able to say that he was competent because she didn't show that document?
So you weren't on the house?
Not at that time.
You weren't married to him at that time?
No. It was a year later.
Okay.
But the insurance company gave him $115,000 for personal, he was Howard Hughes' a chief accountant. He collected things from around the world. Yeah. He had an unbelievable Lenox crystal collection and so many things in the house that were stripped. They were gone before the fire. Yeah. Somebody took them out before the fire. Yeah. And the insurance company paid him $115,000. Because he wasn't living in the house, he was living with me. She was hijacking mail, or had the neighbor hijack the mail, and she was cashing those insurance checks. That was the other thing that we wanted returned in court.
So she was signing his name?
Yes.
Was that brought up in court?
They didn't even... Judge Herndon didn't want to see any of those documents. He didn't want to see any of those documents. Nothing was discussed.
So let me ask you something. When Judge Herndon stripped your husband from his home, where did he expect your husband to live?
Later, because
or was the house burned and it was a total write-off and he got the money?
No. The house is on the 11th tee at the Las Vegas National Golf Course. Mm-hmm. What happened was the $115,000 they gave him was just the
property inside the
inside,
house.
Personal property inside.
Okay.
They had Bosch Construction had some guy that wasn't even part of the company the night of the fire find my husband and sign a contract that Bosch Construction could redo the house. That was another fraud. But so we had 2 cases going. But what happened was the attorneys that we hired, they would go, give us $20,000, and these are a slam dunk. We'll get them done. We'd give them $20,000, and within a month or 2, they would go, there's too many things going on. We're too busy. We can't take it. Did they give us the money back? No. So the thing was the house was completely rebuilt. The insurance company paid Bosch Construction $220,000 to remodel the whole interior. Wow. When Judge Herndon transferred our home to her, she ran down to the county and made sure all the documents were properly recorded. She put it on the market and sold it for $149,000 to a company that I researched that is a shyster. They've been under investigation for many things. They put it back on the market for $449,000.
Sounds like a good investment.
The house was worth, today is probably worth $500,000. And it was at that time. But the thing is that Herndon didn't ask my husband, where are you going to live? He said, okay, well, to calm him down, Stacy said, well, I'll let granddad live in the house until he dies. Well, that was kind of a sure bet, because they kept pushing and everything they did to him, knowing that he had panic attacks from World War II. He wasn't in the perfect, at 83 years old, you're not in tip-top shape.
He's not Jacqueline.
No. So Judge Herndon graciously told my husband that he could stay in there, he would, for life. And when he passed, then that was it. But then when my husband passed, then they had a brilliant idea, because, that was better to collect some money monthly.
So your husband didn't have a will or a living trust?
Oh, no. My husband had like 4 wills before that. Not one will had his granddaughter on there, period. He didn't mention her for anything. And then he had his stock account at, I don't know much about stock. And when he was talking to me about it, I was like, okay, honey, I don't know. But he was brilliant. He knew numbers and he knew the stock. And so anyway, the Charles Schwab, he had the stock account, and his representative over there, he got Don to sign, and he was going to Don's house, and so digging through his paperwork, because he said he could help Don with Stacy and some of the stuff she was stealing. What he was doing was he was going over there to see what Don owned. At one point in 2009, I started taking copies off of the internet from the recorders. Don had like 15 properties. They're all gone. Where did they go? Because when these attorneys were working with Carrie Cole Payne, they blocked everything they said they were going to do. They were going to research all the properties, the stock account, all that. They did nothing.
Well, Ms. Randall, we're running out of time, but I do appreciate you coming down and stating your opinion and educating the voters on this candidate that's running for Supreme Court Justice. So thank you for that, ma'am. Really
I appreciate.
And could you close out by letting the viewers know why they should not vote for Douglas Herndon?
Well, to sum it up, Douglas Herndon, when he says he puts on that robe every day, and the courtroom is not a training ground, he was right. Because the thing is that he puts on that robe with the thought that it's going to be justice for some, not for all. He makes up the rules as they go. And because there's so many people that go to the courtroom, any judge's courtroom, for justice, and when you go to his courtroom and he literally has the facts in front of him and has the power to rule on the Constitution, Nevada law, and rule is from his hip. You don't know what the man is going to rule on in Supreme Court. So the best thing that I can advise anyone on, you want justice in Supreme Court, then vote Ozzie Fumo. He is a man, if you look at his history, he's been in practice here for 20 years. He has 0 complaints on the Nevada Bar Association, whereas Doug Herndon has complaints, ethic complaints. So the Judge Fumo, or Ozzie Fumo, I'm already saying he's Supreme Court judge. That would be the justice for my World War II husband, Donald Randall. So the Supreme Court, you want to sleep at night, know if you have a case there, it's going to be ruled on per the Constitution and Nevada laws, vote Ozzie Fume. Thank you.
Ms. Randall, thank you so much. Folks, that's Yvonne Randall, and she is educating us on her personal experience in Judge Douglas Herndon's courtroom, which was terribly unpleasant. Apparently, Judge Herndon ripped her husband's home away from him, and being in his 80s and a senior citizen. And we don't want that type of justice on our Supreme Court. And we want to make sure that everybody knows what's going on with these candidates before you cast your vote, and really, really educate yourself on these candidates running for elected seats. This is before I close out, I just wanted to do a moment of silence for Don Randall, her husband that passed away. This is Steve Sampson, Jim Jonas with Veterans in Politics. Until next time.